everyone. Welcome to the Light Gate on this beautiful Monday, October 28th, 2024. We are coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 103.5 FM. We are on Roku, we are on Rumble, we are on Facebook, and we are on YouTube. We have a really awesome guest tonight, somebody we love and know well, and I can't wait to talk about that. But I want to make a quick check-in with our sponsors now. Carnation, I want y'all to know thank you very much for coming to our network. We love you very much. I love Carnation. I've been using this my whole entire life. I even used to make this for my grandfather in the breakfast packets every day. Okay, I also want to put a shout out to my godson, Izzy Bear. He is with medical personnel right now, and we're praying really hard that he's not all broken up. He was in a little bit of an accident. Please, y'all, keep him in your thoughts and prayers. All right, Preston, to you.
Thank you, Dolly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight on episode 79 of The Light Gate. We have an amazing returning guest tonight, Dave Scott. We'll get to him shortly. But I do want to say a quick hello to all you folks. It's because of you we do this show. Big thank you to Carnation for supporting us. We love you. And let's see, who do we have here tonight? It looks like we've got our usual crowd of wonderful people. We have Renee Cruz with the emojis going full stream. We have Teresa Levine and Sandra Goad. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Sandra.
And Polly. GTSY. What does that mean? Gutsy guys?
Yes.
Thank you, Polly. Always awesome to see you here. Kaleidoscope Eyes. Hello from Knoxville, Tennessee, the land of the Shakanohe.
Shakanohe.
Very cool. Hi, Rocco. T-Bone, great guest to have back. Yes, we are going to be talking about a really interesting story, I'm told. Let's see, we have Scuba Maru. Always nice to see you, Scuba.
Hello.
And we have Hector Gonzalez from Queens, New York City.
How you doing? Yeah.
We have Leah and the Owl Man.
Hi.
Who says the show makes Mondays better. We try. Hello, Michael Kennedy. Spooky greetings to the hosts and guests. See, I'm wearing my
Love you, Kylie.
Orange and black in honor of Halloween.
Yes. Halloween dress on.
And Dolly Saffron bringing the pumpkins. Thank you, Dolly. T-Bone, I hope the guest discusses CP Flight 21.
Oh, boy. Psychic you are. We are going to do that. Yep.
Yes, we will. Team Ginger, hello from Michigan. We have Janie Mashburn.
Hi.
Giving a shout out to Carnation.
That's right.
And Dave Scott is not only in chat, he is in the green room. Patience, Dave. I'll bring you on in 1 second. Louise, hello from New Jersey. Namaste. With your wonderful, endless generosity, you have our wonderful, endless gratitude.
I heard that there's some yogis from, Buddhists from way up north, up in her area or his area. I'm not going to say he or she. And I'm kind of jealous. I wanted to come for that, but we couldn't.
No.
Dang.
Well, maybe next time.
Yeah.
Jay Kirschman from Virginia and Brilliant Design from Montana. T-Bone. Dave Scott. Googly smiley face. Yeah, we are that excited as well.
Yep.
We have Bambi Dudley, happy Halloween. I wish I could meet Bigfoot. You can. You too can meet Bigfoot.
Yeah, everybody can.
They're telepathic. Go out. Call out to them. You might be surprised. We love carnation milk in our holiday pumpkin pie recipe.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool. We have White Dragon. We have Octopus with No Friends.
Hi.
Raj Vardinghus. Boa Noite. Dolly Preston Scott and everybody from Brazil. Very cool. Greetings from Kauai. Is that how you pronounce that? Kauai?
Hawaii.
Kauai from Hawaii?
Yes.
and Gizmo and Jim. Love the show. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Very cool. We have Wayno. First time catching a live show.
Oh boy.
Thank you, Wayno. Welcome. Hope you enjoy it. We have a lot of fun here. Get your questions in early, guys, because we never get to all of them. Wes Decker, thank you so much. What a great guest. Dave is an amazing human being. Well, you're assuming he's human, but yeah, I think you might be right. He is amazing.
Yeah.
Ruth Kleiber. Who else we have? Charlie Hilbrandt, Octopus with No Friends. Olivia. White Dragon. I would love for you to invite a participant to the Phoenix Lights incident. Well, we did have, oh gosh, what was her name? Dr. Kitai.
Oh, yeah, we did.
So she
took photos herself of the incident. Yep.
We'll bring her back.
Yeah.
She was an amazing guest. We have MTB 214. I'll watch live tonight. Oh, awesome. Dolly, I like your shirt.
Oh, thank you. It's a dress. It's a Halloween. It's from Beetlejuice. It's very cool. It's my Halloween costume.
We have Walking Trees and The Blind Psychonaut and Catmaster Trash and Space and Stone Hobbit. Wow.
Hello.
Don't know if I've seen you here before. I haven't talked to you in ages. I believe you're from Australia, if I remember correctly. Very cool. Okay, I'm about to get in trouble for taking too long doing introductions.
Rat food. Yep.
Rat food. We have Kelly. We have Guardian. Audrey Miller and Eric Red and Charlie Hilbrandt already got a question. Okay, you guys, I'm sorry if I missed any of you, but I really do need to get going here. Kelly, good evening from Kansas. CT guitar guy. I can't resist. I could go on. We got a big crowd here today. So thanks for joining us, guys. Before I bring on Dave, let me just tell you a little bit about him. I'm not going to read the whole bio because if you don't know Dave, you've been living under a rock. Yes. So Dave was on the show before. We talked all about his own experiences with UFOs, ghosts, paranormal, Bigfoot. He is an amazing guy, a huge powerhouse in this field. He is the creator and host of Canada's Spaced Out Radio, which runs Monday through Friday nights at spacedoutradio.com. You can check out the links in the show description. He's a former radio journalist, graduated with a diploma in broadcast communications from one of Canada's top broadcasting schools way back in 1998, spent 10 years in radio, mostly in sports, before leaving the field to pursue other interests. And it was in 2011 when his experiences with the unknown began. You can hear more about this in our first show with him, but these ramped up. He started having premonitions, Bigfoot encounters, UFOs, all kinds of stuff, including direct contact with extraterrestrials, one who he's nicknamed Carl. I love that. And in 2014, launched Spaced Out Radio. He's had nearly a decade as a journalist, which helped him to craft his style of interview, making it comfortable and personal for his guests and listeners alike. Dolly and I have both had the privilege, honor, and delight of being on his show. We love him so much. Let's just bring him on, and we can get this show started.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, guys. How are you?
We're awesome. Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I've actually been looking forward to this for such a long time because I really love both Preston and Dolly for the audience. And you guys are always so generous to me with your time and our Spaced Out Radio listeners that, I can't say enough good things about you guys. So thank you for having me on and the kind words you said.
Oh, of course.
Thank you very much. We love your show. I've been watching you since you started. When Preston said 2014, I realized, oh my God, because I saw some of your first shows. I started watching you all the way back then. Just saying.
Nice. Very few.
Cool. So I know that we have a few new listeners here tonight. So maybe you could just introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah. I'm a radio broadcaster by trade, journalist, whatever you want to call it. I'm a real journalist, not like the majority of the UFO world who just seems to self-title themselves as such. And, I decided, because I couldn't find the answers to my own experiences in 2014, to delve into Radioland online. Like when I left terrestrial radio in 2007, I had no idea there was internet radio because I'm
Oh,
not a
wow.
techie guy.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't until I had a friend of mine tell me about it, that I decided I'll give it a try. And all of a sudden, all the juices from my days in radio flowed back in. And it's something that I love doing. Radio is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful concept. And, it's much different than what you see online, like what we're doing now. Every second means something. You have to time everything out. You have to, in today's social media, caught you moments, you can't just knife or stab people the way many are doing today by calling themselves journalists and everything. You have to understand that not everybody in your audience understands what you do, especially in the topics that we are in that are not very favorable in knowledge, pardon me, to the audience that could be listening in terrestrial radio. And so I take a good pride in that. I take good pride in the fact that you can ask a tough question without sounding like a jerk. You can ask it's all in how you massage it. And that's something that I think all my years as a professional journalist and in Radioland have kind of taught me, that we don't need these caught you moments that are out there that so many try for. And it's okay for people to tell their story. That's what I like.
Yeah.
I keep our show a little bit lighthearted. Life is heavy these days.
Very.
It's heavy. People are worried about the elections. They're worried about war. They're worried about the roof over their head, food on their table, and gas in their tank. And I've taken criticism over the last couple months about, that I'm not going after people hard enough. You know what? From the time people wake up until the time they tune into my show, all they have had is bitching and moaning and getting beat up with life. Okay. And then they tune into my show and they can relax for 3 hours. And I look at the timestamps on it. Our majority of our listeners listen for about 48 minutes. So that tells me one thing, because we broadcast at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, they're falling asleep to us. And if I and I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah.
I had one listener tell me that I was the reason why she could sleep at night. Now it sounds insultive if you didn't know how to take that, but I think it's a great compliment that this person who has had a hard day from 7:00 in the morning up until we start to broadcast, that she feels that she could relax enough to fall asleep because of what we're talking about. And I loved it. Absolutely love it. But I love what I do. I do. It's hard.
It shows. It definitely shows.
Yes, absolutely.
It's hard. It's hard to get, as you guys know, it's hard to get guests.
Yep.
Good ones.
Yeah. And, but I mean, we've carved out a little niche for us out there, and, we're growing by the day. And I hope, like I always encourage my audience to head on over to your shows, and your audience is more than welcome to come on over to mine and hang out. Let's have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, when I was young, my parents used to watch The Tonight Show. They just turned it on, and I could hear it from where my room was. And I got so used to hearing it every night that I would just, do my first 2 hours of sleep from the minute he came on until it signed off. And then I'd wake up, and I do the reverse with you. I'm awake most of the time anyway, and I have nothing to do. And to keep Preston from losing sleep, I watch you. Okay. I'll turn your show on, and it's like being home with you. It's the same thing. And I love everything you talk about. I love all your guests. I love your artists. I love everybody. And it's just really interesting and timely. You put news in there, from time to time, and interesting facts, things like that. I love it.
You know what? Next time we do this together on your let's get Dirty Filth in here so he could draw a cartoon.
Oh, that would be so
There you go.
cool. Yes, absolutely.
I love
would
Dirty
that.
Phil.
Yeah.
That's so fun watching that.
I know it. I know it.
Yeah.
That is so cool. That is so cool. You have to get him to sign it and send it to us, and I'll put it on the wall behind me. How's that? I got an actual Dirty Phil picture to put up on my wall. That'd be cool. Thank you. Yeah, this is crazy. Oh my gosh, I never even thought to ask you for that. That is so cool. Thank you, Dave.
Oh,
That's it. I'm excited now. Now I'm excited about it. I really am.
We'll
I have to find that, you know?
We'll line that up.
Okay. Very cool. Very, very cool.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, I know we've got all kinds of things we could talk about, but you had me really intrigued with this story, which I really know nothing about, Flight 21. So
Okay.
why don't we start with that and see where that leads us?
Do we want the long version?
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
Okay.
We got 2 hours.
Yeah, let's take the long. I love this story.
Okay.
This is. How can I want to start off by kind of setting the tone here. Flight 21 is a place that I will never, ever go back there at night. And not a lot scares me. Okay, wild animals scare me. If you see a bear or a mountain lion or whatever, that scares me. What happened in Flight 21 in the 2 times that we were there, I'm never going back at night. Ever. Nobody could you convince me to? Yeah, if my team went. But for me, no, not alone. Not alone. So
is this a location? I'm
Yes.
confused.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back to July 8th, 1965.
Sure.
Canadian Pacific airplane, DC-6, McDonnell Douglas DC-6, took off from Vancouver and was flying up to Whitehorse, Yukon. And as it was flying over this small little town, just west of this small little town called 100 Mile House, British Columbia, where I now coincidentally live, there was a bomb on the plane. And it blew up the plane. And the plane plummeted from about 10,000 feet, killing all 52 people on board.
Wow.
Shoot.
Now, there are some suspects on this plane. There is a business deal gone bad. There is the one that I heard who caused it was a wife and a husband had to travel down to Vancouver for their divorce proceedings. He didn't want to get divorced. She did. So he had planned on getting the bomb parts while he was in Vancouver, and he assembled them in a briefcase. Because remember, we're going back to a day where they didn't check your suitcases.
No,
You just put your luggage on. And the bomb accidentally went off. So 52 people died in that plane crash. And there is still wreckage out in the forest today. So in 2018, pardon me, before I start there, this is also known as Canada. It's still an open case, and this is known as Canada's largest unsolved mass murder.
Oof.
Yeah. And the Royal Canadian Mounted Police still have an open file on it. So let's fast forward to 2018, where my good friend Merle from the Paranormal Road Trippers in Vancouver, he came up to visit me and he's like, I want to go to this site. I'd never been there before. And as far as we know, we are the first ones to ever do a paranormal investigation there. So we were at the site for about an hour and a half, and we were walking around doing all the stuff that paranormal investigators do. There's 3 of us there. There's Merle, there's myself as kind of the pseudo paranormal guy, kind of showing him around. And then there's our armed guard, Mark. Now, in this area, and I need people to understand, we are in the middle of nowhere. We are about 32 miles southwest of 100 Mile House. 100 Mile House has about 2,500 people in population. So when you go into the forest up here, you don't see people.
No.
Okay. It is dense. It is big and vast. Like give you an example. We're in hunting season right now. I went out hunting yesterday. I didn't see a single vehicle in 4 hours.
Wow.
Damn.
That's a good day for me. But that's just how remote in the forest we are. So here we are at this site. And this site, to get there, you have to take this logging road about 30. Well, it'd be from town. It's about 45 kilometers. So you're looking at about 32 miles. And then you have to find the marker, which is now more marked than ever, of the trail to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go through this trail that's no wider than a side-by-side or a Jeep Wrangler. And you take that over this really bumpy road for about 3 miles at about 10 miles an hour. And then when you get to the end of that road, okay, and remember, it's only this thin. When you get to the end of that road, you have to go into this gully and 4x4 up a steep embankment. And when you get to the top of the embankment, the road splits. If you go up the road, it takes you to the crash site where the main body of the parts and everything are. The cockpit is there and the other stuff. If you go this way, apparently it takes you to the wings and tail section. I've never found that one. So in 2018, here we were doing this paranormal investigation. And after about 90 minutes, Merle says, hey, is there any other stuff around here, like debris? And we said, well, the wings and the tail section are in a different area, but a mile away. And they're like, no, let's focus here. So we end up taking this trail, this deer trail, into the back just to see what was there. And there was this open meadow. So we walk into that open meadow, and Mark, our armed guard, says, let's do this. I'll stand here. I will be able to have a good view in case any predators show up. And if that happens, I'll have good line of sight. So Merle and I walk into the meadow. We get to this big boulder that's in the middle of the meadow. And we're standing there kind of looking around. No, don't see any debris. And then it's like right out of, how can you put it? Right out of the Ronald Moorhead Sierra Sounds video, we start hearing this weird voice. Like this growly type voice. We're like, hello, who's there? And we're like, no answer.
Is this daytime while this is going on?
This is about 2:00 in the afternoon.
All right.
And then that blah, 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 whatever it sounded like did it again.
Wow.
So we're not thinking anything. We're like, what the hell is this? So we're like, hello, we're right here. Who are you? We're in paranormal mode, right? So we walk back through the deer trail, and we get back to this section where there's a piece of landing gear. Then there's this little knoll that goes down into what we call the recovery cul-de-sac, right? And so Mark, our armed guard, goes into the cul-de-sac. I'm kind of on the top of the knoll, and Merle is by this landing gear. Now, that part is going to be very important.
Is there 3 of you here then?
Yes, there's 3 of us.
All right.
And all of a sudden, about 20 feet behind Merle, behind this couple of thick trees and shrubs, he starts hearing grunting. He starts hearing like snorting and foot stomping, and sees tree branches moving. And he's like, something's over here. I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. Like, now we're thinking safety, because in that area, you have grizzly bears, you have black bears, you have 1,500-pound moose, a lot of things that could kill you.
Yeah.
Moose
Okay.
are dangerous.
At that exact same moment, I yell down at Mark and say, hey, we need you over here. Mike's got something up here. And Mark is facing away from us. And he puts his hand up like this, and he takes his backpack off, and he raises his rifle right in front of him because
Ooh.
there is now something coming at him.
Hmm.
Now, to understand Mark is somebody who's been an outdoorsman his entire life. He has been a hunting guide. He has been face-to-face with grizzly bears at Bluff Charge. He has been a wolf tracker, a mountain lion tracker on Vancouver Island. He has done everything in the forest, okay, about everything. And he's my most trustworthy guy that I know going into the forest. And he raised his rifle up into the trees, and there was like nothing there. The only thing that he said was that it sounded, whatever it was in front of him, it sounded like it was bipedal. So in our forest, everything has 4 legs. What's coming at him bipedal? The exit is right in between where Merle was and where Mark was. And Merle's like, we're out of here. We are out of here. And we ended up leaving. It wasn't until a number of months later that I played the Ronald Moorhead Sierra Sounds and realized that's exactly what we heard in the forest. And if you learn anything about Sasquatch, you know that they will triangulate you to get you out of the area that they want you to leave. So we got triangulated out. Took me about a year and a half to finally go back there. Went back there, found the trail where we believe this alleged Sasquatch came through and hid in behind the trees where Merle was. We set up a gifting site, and we had some toys there, some other stuff there, and we left. We went back a week later, and Mark's daughter had put down on the ground a nickel, a 1965 nickel. And it was worn out, and we go back a week later, that nickel is gone. And we come, but my son, who is with us, we had set up the gifting site right at this old growth fir tree that's probably 110, 120 feet tall. And we noticed something. My son I'm like, no, none of the toys are moved. And then on top of one of his toys, there is a 2019 nickel sitting right on top of one of these round toys. So when the original nickel was gone, you have to think logically. Okay, you think, okay, there's a lot of pack rats in the area. Crows, ravens, like shiny objects.
Oh, yeah, sure they do.
Anything might be able to take that. Magpies we have in our area as well. They might take that coin. Not a big deal. But when the coin is sitting on something round and flat, this is where we kind of got into the situation where we were like, okay, what is this? And what is this all about? We couldn't figure it out. So I talked to a good friend of mine and yours, Science Bob, Dr. Bob McGuire, and I showed him the photo that I took of the object or of the coin that the object was on. And if you don't know Science Bob, he's a guy where he has literally been a physics and mathematics genius at Auburn University at Alabama. His later gig was helping run the physics and mathematics program at Virginia Tech University in order to help train spies.
Wow.
And yeah, you didn't know that about Bob? Oh, yeah. So Bob says to me, he goes, Dave, you're missing the obvious. And I said, what's that? He goes, look where the nickel is. I said, it's on top of that round plastic ball. He goes, yes. He goes, a human didn't do that. I said, why? Why would you think that? Because I think a person did. He goes, He goes, Dave, take your cell phone for a second. So I took my cell phone. He goes, put that at the tips of your fingers. What's going to happen? It's not going to be steady. It's going to, eventually, you're going to make a move and it's going to fall. Okay. People put things on flat surfaces so they don't fall. You can move, it doesn't fall. With this nickel, rain could have taken it down. Sleet could have taken it down. Hail could have taken it down. Tree branches falling could have taken it down. Any animal, there's wild horses, moose, deer, bears, anything could have taken that nickel down. And yet there it was sitting right on top. Go back a week later, and now we have a toy basketball out there that has moved. And that toy basketball, I lift it up, and it has what looks to be fingerprints on it. Now, I want to profess something here. I am not a scientist. I am not a researcher. I am an enthusiast who likes to go and find weird things. That's what I do. And
oh yeah, you can see that.
Yeah. Cool.
There's the fingerprints.
Yep.
So on that, it was very greasy. People who have had encounters with Sasquatch fingerprints will say that their skin is very greasy. This was very greasy. There is no grease in the middle of the forest. Okay. And so I just want to show you guys one more picture here. So what I had stuck in the tree was, you go to the dollar store, you buy one of those plastic popsicles and you open it up and it's filled with gumballs. That's what I had stuck in the tree. And that's the nickel I was telling you about.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Right.
oh, all right.
Okay. It's round. It's going to fall off. So we go back a little bit later or a week later, and I see the fingerprints. So in my extremely horrible scientific study, and it was cold out, my hands were shivering. I went to drop my phone, and I had the ball in my right hand, my phone in my left, and my hands were shaking. My phone slips out of my hand, and I grabbed both of them and put them to my chest so they wouldn't fall. Well, guess what wiped off on the
fingerprint? That could have had DNA in it. You realize that, right?
idiot that way. I fully admit it. I am an idiot. So we kept going back and back, and then we decided that myself, Merle, and a young lady named Samantha Mowat, who you have to get on your show if you haven't already. Samantha is probably one of the biggest influences in my life and one of the most important people in my life. She is a psychic, intuitive, lifelong ET contactee, MK Ultra, my labs, everything.
Ah.
An incredible source of information. So Samantha, in 2013, joins Merle and myself, or 2023, pardon me, that we've decided we're going to film. We're going to go up there with a camera crew and we're going to film Flight 21. Now, in between then, we've gone back there investigating ghost hunter. Bill Hauser went up there and we got some spirits talking on his ghost box, including one of the names of the people that actually crashed. We didn't have a list of names, but when we got back into cell phone service, we were actually able to look over the list of victims on that plane crash and saw the name that it gave us. So that was kind of interesting. And in 2023, we went back there with a film crew. Now, this is part of the reason why I don't want to go back there at night. We never camped out there, but on night number 1, we drove in, we set up all of our gear. There's myself, there's Merle, there's Samantha, there's our director, Tim, there's 2 camera people, and there's our armed guard, another friend of mine named Mike. And here we are in the middle of the forest, and this was on a Friday night. We're shooting, And we scout the area, and Merle's like, hey man, I want to go way in the back where we think these voices came from. Not a problem, let's go. So we go back there, we go into a different meadow, and we put glow sticks through the trees so we could find our way back. And I have really bad tinnitus or tinnitus, whatever you want to call it. My ears are always ringing. And I don't hear as much as I should. But our cameraman, along with Merle and Samantha, start hearing voices, male and female voices, loud enough to hear, but quiet enough in order to not be able to make out what they are saying. And this went on, and we set up a bunch of paranormal gear in the middle of this meadow, and it starts going off. There's no electricity around there. There's no phone signal around there. There is nothing. There's no cable wires running through the ground. What is running through the ground, though, is a lot of energy from the dead volcano that died about 1 million years ago. So we're getting all this paranormal activity. We're getting the voices. So we start hearing the heavy thud, thud type footsteps around us. And then Merle turns around back to where we came from, and he watches this shadow standing there, and then it takes off. No noise, no nothing, just takes off. So Merle yells out, I saw you, something like, I saw you. If you are a spirit in this area, or whatever you are in this area, I would like it if you go to that tree over there, which is about 60, 70 feet from us. And I would like you to pull down or the glow stick, and be damned if that didn't happen. All of a sudden there's a shadow there, and the glow stick came down the tree about 1.5 feet. And we were like, we got to get back to camp. So they decide that they want to put the Estes method on me when we got back. So if you're unfamiliar with the Estes method, you put noise canceling headphones on to listen to radio signal. You wear a sealed blindfold, so that way you have full impairment of your eyes and your ears. And the one thing that I learned is you hear a radio signal going through your ears like a tick, 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 tick. Okay. And from there, you're hoping you're going to capture voices. I didn't capture any voices, but what I saw underneath the blindfold was on my left side, I kept seeing in the blindfold this really bright white orb. And after a couple minutes, I said, guys, I'm not seeing, or pardon me, I'm not hearing anything. There's no voices, nothing, but I keep seeing this orb, and it's so bright, I'm squinting underneath this blindfold. And then I started seeing the heads of alien grays kind of go by, and I'd never seen this before. I actually started seeing the eyes of reptilians. The eyes and the eyebrow. Is it an eyebrow or like that bone structure?
Yeah, the ridge. Eyebrow
ridge. Yeah.
Yeah. I start seeing that. And then I guess, because I don't know what's going on, at that exact same time, one of our cameramen points up to the sky, and there is a white orb hovering right above us and starts coming down towards us before going into like a hoop and then disappearing, spreading out and disappearing right over top of us.
Phew.
That was night number 1. Then we got the feeling that we had to leave.
Yeah.
We go back because it's a 2-day shoot. We go back day number 2, and we get set up and everything. And I start getting the feeling that we are being watched. So I call Samantha over to the down the path. We have all our gear set up in this cul-de-sac rescue area, recovery area. And we got literally about $30,000 worth of camera equipment there. We
Nice.
have all of our food there, all of our beverages, because we know we're going to be there till about 1 o'clock at night. And this is going into dusk. And I start getting this feeling, and Samantha at the exact same time starts getting this feeling that we're being watched down the exit path on the left. There's a bunch of trees in there. And I'm like, let's go down the path. Or no, Samantha, pardon me, says, let's go down the path. And I'm like, okay. Because when Samantha says, let's do something, the one thing that I've learned in my time of knowing her is you do it. You may not like what you're going to see at the end, but so we go about halfway down the path and we stop. And we could feel vibration running underneath our feet through our shoes. And so we called the camera crew over and the director over. And we're like, do you guys feel that? And they're like, yeah, what was it? But one of the cameramen could not feel it because he's an ex-Marine and he wore his jump boots everywhere and couldn't feel it through the thick soles. So we're like looking around and we're like, it's coming from this area, which is to our left. Let's go for a walk. So we grab the team, we go down, and we're trying to see if we can communicate with whatever's there. And we go, so the path is like a T. So we go down the end. If we go to the right, it takes us out of the forest or out of the area. If we go to the left, if you follow that trail, that's the one I was telling you that would take you to the wings and the tail section. So we get about 100 feet down that section. And it's just that weird, eerie feeling that we're being watched.
Yeah,
okay.
We all know the feeling. We've all had it.
Absolutely. So we go down that path and we continue on walking down. And all of a sudden, way off in the distance to the west, we hear this roar of a Sasquatch that's about, at least a couple miles away. And this thing literally put all the cattle on guard because a lot of ranchers out there will free range their cattle in those areas. So they go and all of a sudden the cattle start moo, 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 moo. They start mooing all over the place. And the camera crew and everybody's like, what was that? I said, that's Sasquatch. This roar was about one pitch for about 15, 20 seconds. And so we're like, let's get back to camp. We got some things we need to set up. So we start going back to camp. And once again, getting that feeling that something's going to happen. And all of a sudden we get from camp, and we're about 50 yards from camp as the crow flies. And we hear this real guttural grrr. We're like, what the hell is that? Because here's the thing. If it's a bear, it's going to tear everything up.
Right.
We got one shotgun protecting 7 people. So if it's a bear, it's going to be rustling through our bags, trying to get the coolers open for the food, absolutely everything that's going on. So we start hustling back. And I'm watching through the trees to my right because I'm watching as the crow flies to see if there is a bear going to come through the trees. And all of a sudden I see something brown, like matte colored brown.
Oh, wow.
And I stop and I'm thinking, okay, is that the bear? Is that a grizzly bear? Hold on a second. There's no fur on that. What is that? And the sun was shining right down on the top left corner of it, which was turning it, well, what color is brown? It's green, yellow, and orange mixed together. And I could see in the reflection of the sun off that matte color, orange, yellow, and green. I'm like, that's metallic. I stopped my team and I said, what the hell is that? And I point to it. They don't see whatever it is. What they witness is about a 6-foot gray walking through the trees. And I go with them following the alien. I don't see the alien at all. 6 others did. I go then back about 10 feet to go look at whatever this thing, brown thing was. It's gone. and it was shaped like it was round and then round again. Like if you're getting a dipped Dairy Queen cone, those first 2 levels off the cone, that's what it was shaped like. And all of a sudden you put 2 and 2 together, that's the craft. The alien's over there. Alien is now gone. Craft is gone. We go back to base camp. We run back to base camp, and none of our stuff is touched. There's no footprints. There is no, none of our bags are touched. Nothing. So whatever that was that growled, could have been a Sasquatch, could have been a bear, could have been whatever, was warning us about what was in between us.
Yeah.
So that was 2013 or 2023. I decide right after that I am not going back there. Now I'm freaked out. Okay, I'm totally freaked out. Don't want to go back, but I get convinced by Samantha and Merle to go back this year. And in the final weekend of June, we go back there. And we decide that we're going to camp this year. We brought 5. We're going to camp 2 nights, be there 3 days. And we are going to be there for everything. We're going to film all night, stay up all night if we have to. And in fact, our cameraman did film all night. And the only scary thing he caught at night was me snoring. Okay. And so the first night we get there, it's early in the afternoon. We're using my vehicle to go into the gully because I have a Jeep. We go into the gully, pull up, Merle hops out, we take out all the gear, and then I got to go back and kind of shuttle everything over. While I'm gone, and I'm only gone for about 5 minutes, okay, while I'm gone, Merle starts hearing voices from inside the crash area.
Oh, wow.
And he walks into the trees and he sees this matte colored gray lady walking around with her arms at her side and her head kind of tilted down, walking through the trees while he's hearing the voices. So
a normal looking person or like a
no, like dead looking person.
Okay.
Almost zombie like.
Huh.
So Merle comes back when he hears my Jeep pulling up. He's like, dude, you're not going to believe this. Tell us what I saw. Okay, great. Hustle back. 4 more loads. Get everybody up there. We set up camp and nothing happens. The rest of the night, not a thing happens. Day 2, we do some investigating and researching around. We're sleeping. Nothing happens. Our cameraman that we paid a lot of money for is from San Francisco. And he's a friend of ours. And we're looking at him and we're like, we got to get something. Like, there has to be something. The thing that happened on day number 2 was all of our batteries drained. We had 5 days worth of batteries, and by Saturday night, we were out of juice. We were literally running my Jeep, blowing fuses, trying to charge batteries.
Wow.
Okay, I'm surprised we actually got out of there, but we did.
Man.
And so on the Sunday morning, we go home. And we go to my place, charge up all the batteries, and we're like, we got to get something. We got to go back out there tonight because we've got nothing. In 2 days of shooting, we've got zero, zilch, nada. So at about 6 o'clock, we head back out. We're all refreshed. We've eaten something. We go back out there. It's another 1.5-hour drive to get out there. And we get there. We set up all the gear. Again, we're not tenting there that night. We're just working. But we set up this tent, that we put all our stuff underneath in order to stay dry. And literally about 2 minutes after we set everything up and got everything in there, we get hit with about an hour-long torrential downpour.
Huh.
and the ground there, like in our area, we get a very dry summers up here. And it causes a lot of forest fires. Like this water was hitting was hitting the ground, and it was just sinking in quickly, like not even making a dent. Like you could jump on the dirt and you wouldn't even make a shoe print. That's how the earth was at that point.
Mhm.
So it stops raining about an hour later, and we're like, okay, let's figure out what to do. And in that exact same area from a year before, where I had sensed that vibration on the ground that kind of led me over there, I go back there again because I feel like I'm being called over there. And I call Samantha over, and I said, Samantha, something is calling me here. And so she goes, well, go into the trees. I'm right here. And this is where I start to get.
This does not go well. Yeah.
Like it's very
No,
it's very sparse trees, but enough to give anything that's there room
a
to
bird's
hide.
eye view of you coming in. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do we have to go to break, or are we?
No, we're good.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. So I start walking in there, and I only walk in maybe 10 feet, probably more like 8, but it was probably in my world 10 feet. And I'm like, hello, you're more than welcome to come over and say hi to us. You could show us where you are. Nothing. But this feeling is so strong. Now everybody else in our group is picking it up. So there's Samantha, there's Merle, there's Mark, our arm guard, there's myself, and there's Richie, the cameraman. And we are all now picking up that there is something in that area. Every one of us is on alert in that tree area. So we walk down the path, and we're filming everything as we go. We hang a left down the trail, and we get about almost where we had the alien sighting the year before. Samantha looks down, and there is a fresh 17-inch Sasquatch track in the dirt.
Whew. 17 inches. That's
Now,
no joke.
you got to remember, we just had torrential rain. It's going to flatten out everything in the dirt. And now we got this 17-inch track sitting right there. So we continue on this path because we're trying to catch something on camera now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting exciting. And we continue down this path, but every time we stopped, it would stop. Okay. And then we'd keep going, and it would keep going. And this happened for about another 150 feet. And
I've heard this kind of thing before, yeah.
And the trail kind of turns off. And at that turn, it was like whatever it was in the forest that that was tracking us stopped. And then as we continued on this trail, we could hear a bear in the trees. You could tell the difference between a bear. Bears are clumsy. They're loud. They're obnoxious. They're clumsy. And there's Mark, Mr. Outdoorsman. Come on, bear. Come on. Show us where you are. And you can see the fresh bear tracks in the ground as well from the torrential rain. So we're like, okay, we know we got the bear over here. So we decide we're going to go back. So as we started going back towards camp, and you could immediately feel that whatever energy that was, or whatever that was in the trees that was following us, had moved beyond. It had moved not beyond to the ether or whatever, but it moved behind our camping area. And so we pass the track, we make the turn, we go back up to base camp, and we all sit down. Well, that was exciting. Wonder what else we're going to get. And Mark starts doing a perimeter walk in the recovery area around our tent. And he's looking down and listening at the same time. And he goes, "You got to be kidding me." We were gone for about 20 minutes. And when we got back to camp, within 5 minutes, Mark looks down, and there is now a 17-inch track 10 feet from our tent.
No wonder the bear was in the tree.
Right?
These Sasquatch are a little bit of jokesters, too.
We're like, this is incredible. We get all that on film. We mark it out. Mark and Samantha then measure it. Then they ran back to the other print to measure that one. And then they get back, and they're both 17 inches, which is amazing. And then Samantha and I grab a camera and we start walking up the trail where this creature is. Now, this is where it gets a little woo. If this hasn't been woo at all, let's get to the woo.
Oh, wait, before we do, we should actually take a quick station ID break because we now are at the first head of the hour. So
how long do we have?
Another hour.
Another hour.
No, I meant break-wise.
Oh, it's just a minute.
I'm calling it out.
If you want to jump off for a second, now would be a good time.
Okay. I'll be right back, guys.
All right. So I just want to let you all know that you are watching The Light Gate. I'm your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Safran. Our guest tonight is Dave Scott. He's been talking up a storm about his experiences with Bigfoot out in the wilderness of the British Columbia area, involving not only apparently ghostly activity from the crash of Flight 21, but Bigfoot activity, ET activity. It's all connected. It's one of the things I want to ask him when he gets back. But let me read out the call signs to our various streaming locations. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana. We are also on Roku. So check that out for Roku. We are now on Rumble as well, YouTube, and Facebook. And I think that's it. We'll bring Dave back in just a second. He's off doing whatever it is guests do when they have to pop off. But wow, pretty exciting show. I've heard a Sasquatch roar myself when I went to investigate a Bigfoot case, which was really cool. This lady I met, I'll call her Wendy, said she was having Bigfoot problems in her home up in, Acton. This is on the other side of the National Forest, the LA National Forest, which is huge, by the way. It's like 500,000 acres or more. And I found out a lot of Bigfoot activity there. She's a contactee as well, by the way. So there's a connection there. And she was hearing Bigfoot talking telepathically. And was going around her house. She saw footprints, all kinds of stuff. Dolly, what noise are you making?
I'm rattling a bag. Sorry.
All right. Sounds like potato chips.
No. No.
At any rate,
Halloween.
Wendy had described how she saw the Bigfoot looking through her window. So did her son, who said it climbed on the tree and broke a branch, which I verified it did. I took a picture of it. And her roommate saw the Bigfoot looking in his window. So that's 3 witnesses. So I go up there, and she's like, I know where it lives. It's in this canyon. It's right a mile or 2 away from my house. She lives in a pretty rural area, but it's right off the 14 freeway. And she takes me down this dirt road, not too far from her house. And by then it's dusk. It's getting dark. In fact, this canyon area is so steep, it's already completely in shadow. And the sun is set, stars are just coming out. We park. I walk around to the front of the car. I've probably told this story before, but it's really one of my best memories of paranormal hunting and Bigfoot. At any rate, she gets out of the car and she's going to the back seat. She opens the back door and she's pulling out all the sound equipment and camera equipment because we're going to record this thing. And I'm standing in the front of the car, or at the front of the car, surveying the scene. And that's when I hear this thing roar. And honestly, it was so loud and prolonged, I thought for a second it could be a plane flying overhead. Clearly wasn't. There was no planes flying in this area. But I looked anyway, and of course, no plane. And this roar, I could tell was coming from my right. And it stopped after about 15, 20 seconds, which is a long roar. And then it roared again. And that's when I was able to pinpoint it. And Dave, you talked about these Bigfoot roaring. I mean, this thing was not a bear. I've been next to a lion. When a lion roared, it was not a lion. This thing made your chest tremble inside. I mean, this was a big barrel-chested creature. You could tell. And it roared for another 20 seconds at least. And that's a long time
Yeah.
to hear something roar. I mean, it was crazy. Now, Wendy says it roared a third time. I don't think it did. I'm pretty sure it was twice.
I moved up to this area 9 years ago, and there's a few things that I learned, Preston. And that is because we're surrounded by wilderness, learn your sounds and learn your poop. As much as weird as that sounds, learn your poop and learn your sounds. Right. Know what a fox sounds like. Know what a rabbit being eaten sounds like.
It's horrible. I know what it sounds like. Yeah.
Like what a cougar sounds like. We got wolf packs in the area. Learn what they sound like. And these roars that we heard were nothing that I had ever heard before. Ever.
It's hard to describe to people. You just can't really relate it in words.
You can't. And it's easy for people to dismiss what I am saying or what you're saying, Preston, because most people out there have not gone out into the wilderness and spent a lot of time there. I was one of them. I come from the suburban areas of Vancouver where everything is concrete and housing. That's it. You know, you don't sit there and you don't learn this stuff. You know, I mean, everybody, I'm going to go hiking. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. Well, that's great. But if you don't know what you're listening for, you don't know what's around. And so, long story short, I'm just trying to find a photo here for you and your audience here. Okay. So Samantha and I walk up this trail, and we are right at the area where Merle was chased out in 2018. And Samantha says, "What is that?" Leaning against this tree was this, I'm going to call it an 8-foot staff. There was no branches on it. Remember, we had just had that torrential rain. It was dry.
Ooh.
And we have it on camera, and Merle checked this afterwards. We have it on camera walking that trail a few times, and that staff was not there. The other interesting part about that staff was it looked like it had been twisted and turned and pulled from the ground because the bottom of it was filled with fresh dirt. And the other interesting part about it was at about 2.5 feet high on it, there is what looks to be a wet handprint. So here's a picture of Merle holding the staff right there.
Wow.
And if you zoom in, or if I zoom in, because I'm the one zooming, right there, you can see the wet part of where it was grabbed. And just so people understand what I'm talking about, here's the base of it all. You can see that is fresh dirt that has been turned up on that.
Amazing.
Now, my thinking of it, and we sat there and we debated this for about half an hour. Our thinking of it was whoever or whatever that was, it left it for Merle. Because in 2018, whatever that was that chased us out of the forest, I think it was a Sasquatch. I'm just going to name it as a Sasquatch. Okay. It may have recognized Merle.
Merle was the one with the gun, right?
No. Merle was a paranormal investigator. Mark was.
Okay. Okay. Mark had the gun. Okay.
Yeah. So we continue on with our night. We continue on doing more experiments, and we could feel now that we are surrounded, like in a semicircle around us. And every now and again, you'd hear thud, thud. And if you've been in the Sasquatch areas, you will know that, once again, you learn your sounds.
Yeah.
Bears don't go thud, thud. Moose don't go thud, thud.
Mm-mm.
And we could hear this thud, thud all around us. We did have a thermal camera. It was not picking up anything in the trees outside of the trees themselves. This was just beyond everything. And we start doing some more experiments. And at about midnight, all of a sudden, as we're working on trying to communicate with whatever's there, Mark, our armed guard, says, guys, we have to go, and we have to go now. Because whatever that was encircling us was getting closer. And we've got a ton of gear there. To this day, I don't know how we fit. It took me 3 loads to get all the gear up there. We did it all. And we got it. We got the hell out of there. So I drive Merle out first. We unload the vehicle. Samantha, Richie, the cameraman, and Mark, the armed guard, they're walking down the trail towards us, okay, or following us. And as we come up the hill to unload the gear, Merle looks in Samantha's truck, and there is the gray lady from night number 1 sitting in Samantha's truck.
Wow.
And then vanished. So we unload. Merle hops in the truck, locks himself in, and I'm only gone maybe 4 minutes to go get the other 3 and come back. And Merle said in that time, he heard little voices running around the vehicle, tapping on the vehicle, and all this stuff in like 3 minutes. We did take the staff. Okay, we did take the staff. So we unload everything. We pack up Samantha's vehicle, and we're like, guys, let's go to the coffee shop. Let's break down what's just happened, because we're all shaking. We're all freaked out now. Like we have been stalked, and now we've been asked to leave. So as we pull out, there are right behind us, like maybe 30 feet, 40 feet behind us, as we're pulling out, we hear these loud whistles, 2 loud, high-pitched whistles. And I heard the whistle, but my tire hit a puddle at the exact same time. So I just thought it was the water hitting my vehicle and making a sound. But Samantha, who was behind me, who hadn't hit the puddle yet, they had their windows open and they heard the whistles clearly. So I will never go back there to Flight 21 again. My theory on it, and this is just my belief, I believe that the Sasquatch are in that area to protect the spirits that are there from Flight 21. And at that moment in time, we wore out our welcome, and they wanted us to leave, so we left.
Damn. That is insane.
Definitely had double phenomenon going on, that's for sure. That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
very
amazing.
much.
Did you ever get the manifest list of people and their identities, in other words, pictures of them, of that flight, to maybe identify that woman as being on that flight?
I think to this day, now that we're like 4 months past it, we are still rattled. You know, we are still rattled trying to figure everything out.
Well, it's kind of what you went there for, though, right? I mean, on one level, you have to be like, wow.
Very true. But I'll tell you, I have another location that I go investigate Sasquatch with. And in this area, we have, and once again, I want to remind your audience, I'm not an investigator. I'm not a researcher. Anything that I do, I don't care about evidence. I very rarely will take photos. I'm not recording anything. I'm there just to have the experience. That's what I like. I'm not there to prove anything, because what I've seen with my own eyes proves it. A lot of people may not like it, but that's just who I am. I'm not there to tell anybody or everybody that this is real. You have to figure it out on your own.
I agree.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, the only way you can build knowledge is through personal experience.
Absolutely. My second area for Sasquatch, we have found 13-inch tracks there, 15-inch tracks, 16-inch tracks. This year we found 2 19-inch tracks. And we've started seeing a bunch of different sightings. In 2022, we actually had a sighting of about a 10-foot Sasquatch there.
So some of these tracks, the 17, 19 inches, how deep were they?
The 19 inches were deep, not well enough to cast. The 16-inch tracks, we got photos of them, could not cast them because the ground was really dry at that point. The 13-inch track we casted. Did you
compare the depth to your own footprints?
Oh, yeah. Our shoes weren't even making footprints. That's how hard the track was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So I think like those Sasquatch in that area are much more curious. They're not as dangerous as the ones up at Flight 21. And that area is more wide open, whereas Flight 21 is very enclosed. And like in Flight 21, you feel trapped because it's not an easy access to get in there. Like it is easy if you're walking or hiking. It's easy if you have a proper like ATV or UTV or even a Jeep or a Ford Bronco, like a smaller version. But it is still a trek, and you feel very trapped and enclosed in Flight 21, whereas our other Sasquatch area, you don't.
Do you know if anyone else has seen activity up there?
Yeah, my friends.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where I used to live in Pine Mountain, Georgia. It's the FDR Roosevelt State Park there. Okay, and I lived in the park. I had a log cabin, and we knew that there was Sasquatch in there. I never really thought about it until once. And we were out, it was cold, and we had a campfire going outside in our, fire pit. And we were sitting out there for a long time drinking hot chocolate and just, yapping. And all of a sudden I got this impression. It wasn't talking to me in English. It was an impression that if we didn't bank it back and left it roaring, it would be much appreciated. Okay. And to please close our curtains when we went in the house. We had blinds. Okay. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, okay, let's all just go in. It's late. Let's go to bed. And I told my husband at the time, I said, let's just go in. Don't worry about the fire. I'll come out in an hour because I want to come out here and meditate. He's like, okay, fine. Do what you want to do. So we went in the house and we put everything down. Well, what I did was I ran in the house and got a bowl of apples and I got a bowl of nuts. Okay. And I put some water out there and just whatever I could grab and think of, because I thought, oh man, if it really wants to come here, I'm feeding it. Okay. And we went in and I did not look outside. I was faithful to leaving it alone or them alone. I got up in the morning about 4:30, 5 o'clock because I have to be to work at 6:30 in the morning. Okay. And I went out there to check the fire. It was 100% banked back, politely banked back. And the water was gone. The apples were gone. The nuts were gone. And there was hair all over our stumps that we sat on around the fire. And I just sat there thinking, oh my God, that's whoa. About a year later, we had this horrific tornado. It was a mile-wide tornado, and it hit down in Harris County near the big highway out there coming toward us. It went through us up over the park through Dowdell's Knob, which is where Roosevelt had his big barbecue and stuff, went to Warm Springs and then flattened Manchester. It was the finger of God. The entire woods, everything a mile wide was dug down to the dirt, nothing left, nothing. And a cop found us. He was hiking up about an hour after the morning broke. We were all in shock. I saw the tornado. I'm so thankful it didn't hit us. And we were talking and he said, I'm going to go up on the road. And he said, I want you to look for 3 things. And I said, what am I looking for? He said, 40 head of cow are missing. Look in the trees, what trees are left. He said, 2 people are missing. And we've had reports of something odd being going on. And I went, okay, what's odd? He said, you'll figure it out. And he left. He went up on the hill. Well, I'm getting myself all together because I'm going to follow him because there's one family above us that I was terrified about. But before I did, as I walked out the cabin, I was standing there looking for my hiking stick, and I heard the most god-awful, unbelievable, screaming roar I've ever heard in my entire life. And it sounded pitiful. Like, oh, it's that kind of emotion. And it lasted for a good 30 seconds. I mean, nonstop. Oh my God. And it did. It went through me. The sound filled the entire valley that we were on top of. And it sent shivers up my spine. Well, I hauled butt at that point. I went running up the road, jumping trees and all kinds of stuff, and found that cop. And then we found the house, what was left of it, of the people up there. They had hunting dogs. They brought them into their bedroom, locked the doors, and the tornado took everything but that bedroom. Everything. And they said that they saw 2 Sasquatch going down to the valley from where they were, down toward me.
It's far more common than people realize. Most people don't talk about it.
No, it's crazy.
You have to get a hold of Jackie Harmon from my team. She actually got groped by a Sasquatch this year.
Wow. Groped.
In her tent.
Wow. Yeah, I talked to one lady who camping in the Southern California, Julian area, and had a Sasquatch walking around their tent and put its hand right on their tent and started pressing down. So she put her hand up against it and pushed against the Sasquatch's hand. So although there was only nylon between them, she pretty much touched a Sasquatch.
Yeah, it's crazy. Jackie's story is she's been investigating Bigfoot since she was 4 years old.
Wow.
She used to go out with her dad, who was really into it, in California. And then it was like what happened this past summer at Mount Adams. I don't even want to tell the story because it's just so incredible the way she touches it. But like this thing was grabbing they were in a floating tent. And it was grabbing her ankle, her back of her leg, her butt, her back, her shoulder. Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah, they can get handsy. There was a guy who was driving down the road, had a Bigfoot walk up into his truck and tried to pull him out.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a number of cases of people who were essentially kidnapped as well.
Yeah. Most famous up here in British Columbia was 1930s Albert Ostman. He was kidnapped for almost 7 days.
Yeah. Wow. I always kind of took that story with a grain of salt until I started running against it. I mean, there's a good 20 or 30 of these cases.
Oh, yeah.
There was one involving 2 hunters. They had a Bigfoot run up to him, grab one of the guys and run with him for like 30 yards and threw him down a hill. That would be enough to scare the pants off of anybody.
I think, though, the main reason, I don't think these creatures are violent or malevolent.
I don't either.
I think they're a lot like killer whales. Okay, killer whales, you could go swimming with killer whales, not a problem. But there are these rogue pods of killer whales that will destroy everything. I mean, look what these rogue pods are doing to sail to boats and yachts in the Mediterranean right now. They're knocking out the engine and they're ramming the boats like Moby Dick.
Yeah, there's a bunch of cases of this. Yeah. I'm a huge shipwreck guy. I know cases where boats have sunk because of killer whales.
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more of that now. And it hasn't really started in British Columbia or Washington State or Oregon yet. But the fact that it is out there, like how I tie that to Sasquatch is we're going to have rogue pods of these Sasquatch that are not very as friendly as we think. I think mostly that these creatures are very curious, but if you act in stupid ways, they're going to get fed up. Like give you an example, like in our area where we go, We do everything the same. Everything the same. We park in the same spots. We have our campfire in the same spot. You know, we set up our lawn chairs in the same spot. We're not out there like some people who are trying to make a buck off of this, that are running around in ghillie suits. Oh, you have to sneak up on them. They can smell you.
They can hear you mentally too.
They can smell you. Ghillie suits don't work. You don't need to go in wearing camouflage. Okay. If you find an area where they are and you continue to go back to that area often, they will be able to come to you.
Yeah.
Their curiosity will eventually get them to you. It's like if you throw a cardboard box in the middle of your house, if you have cats, the curiosity of the box is bringing the cats right to it.
Right.
The area is the box. You're the box. If you do everything the same, they're going to come to you.
Which is exactly what happened. We had lived there for like 2 years when this occurred. The fire pit and all that. My daughter built would be like a kibbutz up in the ridge behind the cabin. Went up a hill, and it was a big ridge, and then beyond the ridge, it went straight down into a valley. And I think they were all living in the valley. And she had her little kibbutz right there, and she'd go up there and listen to music, you know, do her homework, stuff like that. And she'd take snacks. And she told me once that a lot of the stuff that she took up there would disappear, and things would be replaced. Not food, but offerings. I don't know how to explain this. She said, once I got a stack of pine cones, I got a bunch of rocks that were real pretty. You know, she said weird things would show up. And I was like, okay, well, as long as you got this little camaraderie thing going on, don't worry about it. You know, just I don't want you up there past dark. You know, just come home.
Yeah.
She told me she could hear things up there, you know, during the day when they were up there. And when my stepdaughter moved in with us, she said the same thing. They were walking around the woods, and they'd come in all shook up, and I'm like, what's going on? Something's going on in the valley, you know.
I suspect there's a pretty big population out there. I went hiking with my brother and his best friend, Neil, my brother Steven, up Mount Baldy, which is not far out of LA. It's a couple-hour drive out of the city, basically. And it's a pretty popular tourist spot. People die on that mountain every year. It's dangerous. He took me on a trail. Oh, I lost my mind. It was a cliff for a mile. But at any rate, we went up to this one place where basically no one else goes because it's too darn hard. They wanted to climb to the top of this mountain. I couldn't make it. It was too high, too hard for me. And so they're hiking up, and I'm like, I'm just going to rest here. And my brother goes around the corner, and he starts knocking on trees. Now, mind you, my brother Steven is a huge skeptic, doesn't believe in anything. I finally got him to believe in UFOs, but it took years, but certainly not Bigfoot. And he's throwing these big rocks against this tree trunk. Bam! I'm like, oh, Steven, what are you doing? And right after he finished doing it, way, way off in the distance, out in the wilderness, I heard a response. Knock, 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 knock. I can't prove it was Bigfoot, but in my heart, I know it was. And I went to the ranger station and I looked it up. There's Bigfoot encounters there. I found 4 or 5 of them. So that's my second Bigfoot story. Have you ever heard knockings, Dave?
Yes. Our area, we get some knocking there. In fact, about 2 months ago, we started taking it. We have some new friends that we've kind of introduced to the area, and it was their second time out. And we're sitting by the fire, and all of a sudden, thud, thud on the ground again. And I was kind of off looking in the stars because there was a lot of flashing going up in the sky. And all of a sudden, I heard the thud, thud, and I heard my friend Tim and his wife Lorelei say, "What was that?" Lorelei put the flashlight up, and Tim actually saw a half profile of one. And the funny part about it is it started walking backwards, but on an angle. And we went back there a couple days later, about a week later, to figure out why. Like, I wanted to see, because I never saw it. I wanted to see, well, where was it? Where was it standing? And so we looked at the location, and Then all of a sudden we realized why it was walking backward on an angle, because there was a tree that had fallen on an angle and it didn't want to walk backwards into the tree. It would have fell.
Yeah.
So
Oh my goodness.
it was playing. And like, we didn't know that tree was there that had fallen, so it all makes sense.
Well, maybe I could pop up a few questions from chat, because this one is interesting to me, from CT Guitar Guy 85. Me doing this research, I've seen UFOs.
Yes.
I went out looking for Bigfoot. I saw them too. I went out looking for ghosts. I saw them. And people ask me, like, how can you be seeing all this stuff? It's because I went out looking for it.
That's right.
So I think that is pertinent to this question. Why does Dave think he encountered multiple phenomena, from ET to Sasquatch to spirits, but in the same area? That is a good question. Why were ETs there? You already kind of touched upon that.
Yeah. I can answer that this way. The phenomenon is everything. It's all tied together. And that is probably the biggest lesson that I have learned over the last 5, 6, 7 years, is that there's no, like, ghost hunting is not its own thing. Cryptid hunting is not its own thing. UFOs are not its own thing. It all seems to blend together. And so in that area of Flight 21, where we get the trifecta, where we get the trifecta of everything that's out there, I think that we are able to, the energy that we were putting out, that we wanted to experience and everything, I think that really helped out. Okay. And that really brought everything forward. So why is it all tied together? I have no idea. My opinion is it's a phenomena.
Yeah, I think they're related. I'm not prepared to call them all the same thing, but I think one opens the door to others. They attract each other. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Dolly? CT Guitar is wondering about what you think about this.
All life is related to all life throughout the entire universe. And we have a plethora of it on this planet alone, and things come and go here at a regular pace. And humans don't think about the fact that they've lived very blinders on lives. You live in the cities, you live in the suburbs, you see and hear only what you see and hear, and you're not really exposed to everything until you get older and you start looking. And all you have to do is open your eyes or ask the questions, and it will present itself to you. If you intend to find what you're looking for, you will. And Sasquatch are well known. They have many names throughout the entire world. It's a phenomenon that's been well known for ever, centuries. And it doesn't surprise me that people have multiple experiences. We live in a world of energy that's everywhere all around us. Also, when we leave the body, we're essentially what you might call a ghost. You might stay here because you're not aware of where you're at for a while. You haven't woke up to what your situation is. We see ghosts all the time. People, trust me, there are ghosts everywhere all the time. And ET's around too. I mean, it's just that's our lives, and we're waking up to that now. People are having these experiences and going, oh, wow. And it is all part of each thing. It is a party of existence here and everywhere else. So yeah, related.
All right. Well, here's a question. I'm picking the questions that are relating to our guest more than some of the more general ones first. But if we have time, we'll get to them. And this is from Polly Rotterman. It says, hi, Dave. What is Bigfoot in your opinion? Another kind of human evolution, ET, or transdimensional entity species?
Polly asks so many good questions. She, like, when she's in my chat room, I try and get her questions in because they're so good. When I first started learning about Sasquatch back in the day, I thought it was a flesh and blood type creature. And now I'm not so sure. I lean more towards the interdimensional. I've talked to a lot of First Nations people over the years who believe that there is something special and unique with this creature.
For sure, yeah.
We know it eats because people have seen it eating.
Right.
We know it drinks because people have seen it at water drinking. we don't know how it vanishes into thin air. We don't know. I mean, you take Jan Maccabee's incident with the glitter man or the glimmer man, okay, where many people believe that was a Sasquatch cloaking itself. I can understand. I'll give you an example. I was out hunting yesterday for 4 hours. I didn't see a deer. I didn't see a bear. I didn't see a moose. And I was right in their territory. Because animals, it doesn't matter whether you're a bird like a grouse or a big moose that's 1,500 pounds. Animals absolutely have perfected camouflage.
Yep.
And if you don't know what to look for, then you're going to miss them. And I often wonder, and I laugh about this all the time when I'm driving through the forest, how many animals saw me and I didn't see them?
Lots. Exactly. They have their own lives. They have their own habitation. They have their own.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have my theories about Bigfoot, though. I think that they're psychically advanced because we have people on Earth who can levitate, who can walk through walls, who can turn invisible, who have mastered superhuman abilities. This is something we can do. We're interdimensional, and we're also physical. So I don't think one necessarily precludes the other. I think those are just really psychically advanced.
Yeah.
Your theory.
And I would tend to agree with you. There's many people who have had mind speak from these creatures or been hit with these frequencies or these waves that all of a sudden out of nowhere they're violently ill and have to leave.
Yeah. In fact,
there's so much about it that we just don't understand.
That's what Arvo just said. Have you heard of them creating infrasound with their vocals, causing mental effects on the people around? So that's what you're talking about.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Wow, because I haven't heard so much about that, but it would make sense.
Yeah.
And I do know if you study primates, they are very vocal in terms of whistling. And what about rock throwing? I know Bigfoot are known for that. Have you experienced that?
Once. In our original Sasquatch spot that we found, once again, we parked in the same area. We had a gifting site in the trees. And that site has now been torn apart by logging, not because they were logging the area, but because they were making fire breaks in the areas on all the trails. And they just happened to clear the area where my Sasquatch spot was and store the logs that they took down. That area, we went in there, could feel them around us, didn't hear a sound, didn't smell anything, just had that gut feeling that we were around, and we're looking around like, man, no footprints, no nothing. And all of a sudden, right behind us, there was a rock thrown onto the ground, a little pebble. And that's the only rock throwing that I have ever experienced was that one. But I know guys who've been walking through trails on the forest, and all of a sudden they're being pelted by little rocks, not hard enough to hurt anybody, but and you could hear them because they're running their GoPros. You could hear these rocks actually going through the trees and hitting leaves and branches and everything, hitting their jackets. I think, if Major League Baseball could get a hold of one of these, we'd have a new Cy Young Award winner.
Yeah. Now I have a question for you, because this happened to us, and I've never brought it up, and I'm going to bring it up to you. We had a dog that was half wolf and German Shepherd. Okay. He was huge. We called him Bayo. He was injured by a trap. He was a police dog, actually trained police dog. And he was out in the woods. He would hunt things down for him, track things. And he got into a trap and it mangled his foot. So we inherited him. Aww. And so the dog couldn't dig on his own, but I swear to you, at least 15 new holes would show up in our yard for that dog to lay in and be rested and calm and cool in the woods. And we couldn't figure out who the hell is digging all the holes, big ones. If it rained, it'd fill up with water. He was even happier about that. And it drove me crazy because he could not dig like that at all. And yet there they were. And I just wonder.
It's so weird with this, when things like that happen.
Yeah.
Like you can't just make it up.
Mm-mm. No. It was weird.
I don't know. Sasquatch and dogs don't have a good reputation together. There's lots of accounts where they kind of clash.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Bear was a big cookie. He loved everything and everybody. I had a beagle too, and the beagle wanted to hunt, and she couldn't get the little things that would run into trees and stuff. And Bear would bite out the trees, the old stumps, so she could grab them, like little chipmunks and stuff and squirrels. Raccoons too. I mean, the dog he'd help her hunt. I mean, he'd help anybody. This dog was just so weird, and I think that they may have been attracted to him somehow. They may have loved him. We used to come home with animals too. I worked at the wild animal safari sometimes, and we'd come home with big cats, babies, stuff like that. And I swear to you, I was being watched. We'd be out there working on stuff, and you get a big animal, you got to give it a bath outside, not in the house. And you'd hear growling or whatever, from the cats. And I swear to you, we were watched half the time we were out there. It's like, what the heck are these people doing? I used to rescue animals. I worked with the Humane Society as somebody who took care of animals when they needed it, until they found them homes or whatever. And I had constantly had animal things going on in my yard, and I think they watched us. I really do.
I was hiking in Topanga with my friend Lee and my brother Steven, and we felt it too. And then came upon this fresh cougar track. It was huge. I'm like, I'm not hiking back up that creek. I'm taking the road. You guys can go up the creek. We ended up taking the road because it was a huge track, and we were watching it fill with water. It was just stepped there. We never saw it, but you could definitely feel it watching you. It's like being stalked. Okay, I want to bring up another question from Leah, which is a good question because it sort of speaks to our relationship with them. Because there's a lot of cases of people gifting food, and we talked about this, and they get back flowers or meat. Or one guy, he had a relationship. This Bigfoot gave him a crystal. But Leah's asking, is there any amount of reverence to make them leave you alone?
Why?
I would say it's more me pestering them. I need some reverence to leave them alone. I think it's a healthy respect. When in our one Sasquatch area where they're very curious, it's usually around 10:30, 10:45, where all of a sudden you get this feeling that it's time to go. And I think as long as you respect that, then I'm good. I don't leave in my area. I don't leave any sort of food. There's too many predators in that area where we are. We have, I'll just give you a quick list of animals. There's mountain lions, lynx, bobcats, martens, badgers, grizzly bears, black bears, moose, deer, porcupines, wolf packs, coyotes, foxes. That's why I don't leave food. Because, but I will say this though, because this kind of ties into an earlier question. Well, the first thing we do when we get to our Sasquatch site is we give them a tobacco offering, because tobacco is considered peaceful. And then we will say out loud, like not screaming, but just like talking like you and I are, we are armed. However, we will not raise any of these weapons to you. These are our protection from any sort of apex predator that sees us as food or danger. If you come into our area, we will not raise a weapon to you. And we put out that intention. Now, I don't know if it works or not, but I'll tell you, I feel better after I do that, because in my opinion, it seems to calm the standards of what is going to go on with potential communication.
Right.
And what you said is key: respect. Respect their space. Some can be territorial. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
Yeah. most of what I try and do, I think, I'm going to sound a little controversial here when I say this, and I don't mean to say this as a racial thing or anything. I think we too many times get caught up in the Caucasian Christian science.
Yeah.
And we do not pay the respect to the First Nations people who have had these stories, these encounters, these legends for not only centuries, but at times millennia. And I think with the Caucasian Christian science attitude, we are not gaining all the information we could because we are disavowing what First Nations people have learned. Whether it's about Sasquatch, whether it's about little people, Dogman, the forest dwellers, potentially inner Earth, UFOs, aliens, spirits and ghosts, we do not pay enough attention to what they have learned. And I will steadfastly say that's probably the reason why we do not have answers or anywhere close to answers, is because science is becoming too much about opinion rather than theory and proof.
There you go. I agree.
Yeah, I don't think that's controversial. I think that's common sense.
If I could just add to that, I had the blessing to speak at a Bigfoot conference, Sasquatch conference, and I apologize. I noticed there in the chat room, there's people who do not care for the word Bigfoot. The reason normally I use the word Sasquatch, but most of my audience is in the United States, where Bigfoot is the more acceptable term. I do not squatch. I can tell you right now that after 10 years of hosting spaced out radio and interviewing as many people that I have, there are certain keynotes to know whether somebody is a BS artist or not. People who squatch are the BS artists. It's just like there's a big difference between UFO investigators and UAP investigators.
Yeah.
People
I agree
are
100%. Yeah.
objects, right?
Yep.
So I do apologize, and I wanted to just clarify that. I do mean to say Sasquatch, but I did speak at one this year, and it was funny because the event was held on First Nations land at a First Nations hall. There were First Nations people everywhere, and even in between speakers, they had the elders come in and drum and sing songs, and it was beautiful.
Wow.
It was just beautiful. And here you had all of these investigators on day one coming up, making fun of the legends, of the stories, and how there's no proof. We got to get away. We got to get to more science. Everybody, the key to the biggest BS in research is that we have to keep going back to the science. The science has nothing without the experience. Gary Nolan has even said that from Stanford University. And I go up I'm the first speaker on Sunday. And the first thing that I say is, I don't know what this is. We don't know what it is. Science doesn't know what this is. So how can we sit there and eliminate possibility if we're not going to investigate whether or not it happened or the truth?
Yeah. I mean, we hardly know who we are, so.
Exactly. Now, that may seem, look, I'm not a scientist. That's why I got into journalism, man. I hated working on science. Okay, but from what little I do know of science is this. Science is about theory. And if we're using opinion to move theory forward, we're not conducting anything scientific.
Correct. Thank you. Science should be about proven facts, empirical data. And the only way you can get that is through experiencing whatever phenomenon you are firsthand. that's how you get those answers, by
Yeah.
actually going there.
The
looking
foundation
at
of science
Right.
is observation. And
Right.
my problem with it is it becomes a closed system and people start rejecting anything that doesn't fit their theory. That's not
Right.
even science.
I know. And then there's lots of people with money who kind of control what gets talked about and what doesn't.
Well, I
Scientific,
mean,
you know?
it's just like in the paranormal. The minute I
Yeah.
see a team that says we're conducting scientific experimentation, I look at that and I say, okay, when's the last time you did a scientific experiment? A true scientific experiment? High school? Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
right. Yeah, I know. I agree.
You little lights that go blinky blink is not science. Nothing in this field is repeatable. You
Yeah.
cannot repeat the outcome.
Right.
How
You can't even work it backwards to the same conclusion. That's impossible because you're dealing
Yeah.
with beings who
Absolutely.
apparently are pretty bloody smart by avoiding us. Okay. Number one. And we don't take any of that into consideration. We don't teach our children or our family. And this is where Native comes in. I am Native. Okay. I'm Ostahatchee Indian. That is my great granny grandma. I am registered. Okay. Ostahatchee, which is one of the Cherokee tribes. And from her knee, I learned many, many, many things. And the very first thing I learned from her is be quiet, listen, sit still. Do not take anything under assumption. The minute you do that, you're messing up. You have to notice everything. You have to learn everything, especially like you said, know the difference in poop, know the sounds of the animals, know the sounds of the trees, know what the damn trees are, You have to understand how this ecosystem actually operates and be able to walk within it safely and with respect, because respecting nature is the number one issue with the native tribes of this country and everywhere else in the world. I'm also Swedish and I'm semi-Swedish native, okay? And we're more related in our abilities or knowledge with the Cherokee or most of the Indians, the native peoples here. India,
We're losing a
indigenous.
big opportunity by not listening
I
to
know.
indigenous peoples.
Everything in the Sami world, they live in teepees. They herd their own reindeer. They live off them. They live in the wild. They sustainably, they respect nature. They do everything they can. And their songs, their voices, and their traditions are identical. And I learned that growing up with on both sides of the family, learning that. And you can't do that by accident. Okay. This is something that we need to wake up to. Most of the people on this planet is that they were taught. They are the star children. They were here first. Okay. And we should just listen to them. You're right. 100%. I agree. I'm very passionate about it. I agree with you. 100%. Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Yep.
All right. We're in the last 4 minutes of our show. So, Duchess. So is there anything else you want to add before we start giving off? Let's talk.
Whatever. I do. You know what? I know you have bunch of questions that you haven't asked yet.
Yeah, go for it. We got time. We got a few minutes.
I know you got to sign off on.
Okay. Well, here's a question from T-Bone, which is kind of interesting. Would the guest or his team use a Ouija board at the Flight 21 crash site?
We did.
You did. Wow. What did you get?
And I will say this. The minute it came out, the responses went dead, and the absolute push to get us out of there greater.
Wow.
That's very interesting.
Well, I've tried it. I was under the guidance of an experienced medium. I generally don't recommend it because it can lead to a pretty intense haunting. But I know it works. It's definitely a tool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Would I do it again? Yes, I would. I would do it in a more controlled environment than out in the wilderness.
Yeah.
We did it once when I was a kid, and I realized one of us regretted it. Literally. Never again. Left it alone.
I don't see a Ouija board any different than I do tea leaves, tarot cards, pendulums, dowsing rods.
Yeah, well, it's the psychic operating the tool. That's the whole point. You
Yeah.
know, it's what they're comfortable with. It helps them,
Absolutely.
you know. So
She wants out. All right. Oh my goodness. This
Okay.
dog is taking over the show.
ask another one. Here, I don't know where you star these things. You gotta. I'm looking through. There's a billion questions. People talking tonight. We have a big crew in here.
From Leah, do they read our minds and character? I think so.
I think so. I would agree.
100%.
Yeah, they know exactly what's going on. Ow! This dog is biting me now. Well, we're at 2 hours, so we really should wrap it up.
All right.
All right.
We're going to keep continuing this, and we're going to have you back again. We'll have to make the plans.
Anytime.
It'll be fun. I love Sasquatch.
Yeah, it was a good show. So thanks for joining us. I do want to thank all you guys who's donated to Super Chat. Namaste. Wes Decker, you guys are amazing. Richard Minnick, Gizmo, we truly appreciate your generosity. It means a lot. It helps us to fund this show. So we're very, very grateful to all of you guys for joining us and all the wonderful questions. Sorry, didn't get to all of them. But yeah, you guys have been great in chat. So thank you. And thank you, Dave. Always awesome. You're
Thank
amazing.
you.
And
Appreciate you. And I want to invite all your audience that on Monday through Friday night, I host Spaced Out Radio,
That's right.
9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You can easiest way to catch us is right here on YouTube. And what is it? Spaced Out Radio. We're on every major podcast network. And of course, we're on UPRN as well. So you can check us out there at any time.
Absolutely.
And again, all the links are in the show notes, so definitely check out Spaced Radio. It's the best show out there, better than ours, older than ours, and I learned a lot from you,
Me in
Dave.
there one night if you show up. I hang out. You know, I say stuff every now and then. So, but I'm listening too. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dave, very much for coming on tonight. We at the Light Gate love you very much. We are coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Facebook, Roku, Rumble, and YouTube. Y'all have a really great week, rest of your week, and please be safe on Halloween. Have a good time. The veil is thin, so enjoy. We love you. Bye. Namaste.